Stop squirming. A limp makes you look more artistic. Clients love a tragedy. My father said this as he ground the heel of his heavy leather boot directly into my shattered knee. He had just walked into my room to tell me he canceled my reconstructive surgery so he could send my sister to Dubai instead. He looked down at me while I gasped for air and delivered the brutal truth. Gabriella is the growth asset. You are just maintenance costs. He thought he was simply cutting expenses on a bad investment. He didn't realize he was handing me the evidence to audit his entire life and put him in federal prison. Has a parent ever sabotaged your health just to benefit a sibling? Tell me your story in the comments. The door clicked shut, leaving me in the silence of a house that had never really felt like a home. It felt like a storage facility for Douglas's assets. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I dragged myself across the hardwood floor, my breath hitching every time my shattered knee shifted inside the brace. I made it to the bathroom and pulled a bag of frozen peas from the mini fridge I kept for recovery. As the cold numbed the white-hot fire in my leg, the shock began to fade, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I finally understood the business model of this family. See, my father isn't just a father. He is a CFO. He doesn't see people. He sees spreadsheets. For 27 years, I thought I was the responsible daughter. I thought if I worked hard enough, saved enough, and cost him nothing, I would earn his respect. I was the service dog of the portfolio. I graduated summa cum laude on a scholarship I won myself. I worked 2 jobs to pay for my textbooks while living on ramen. Even now, managing multi-million-dollar landscape architecture projects. I lived in his guest room to steward the estate because he convinced me it was financially prudent. I paid rent. I bought my own groceries. I was a zero-cost asset. Then there was Gabriella. At 24, she has never held a job that required a W-2 form. She calls herself a lifestyle curator. She has 5,000 followers, most of them bots. But Douglas calls her his angel investment. He believes she is one viral post away from marrying a billionaire or landing a reality TV deal. He treats her like a high-risk, high-reward stock. When she wanted a $60,000 G-Wagon for personal branding, he signed the check without blinking. When I needed $400 for drafting software in college, he gave me a lecture on fiscal responsibility and told me to pick up an extra shift. I looked down at my knee, throbbing under the bag of peas. I used to think this disparity was just tough love. I thought he was teaching me resilience while spoiling her because she was weak. I was wrong. He wasn't teaching me anything. He was minimizing overhead. To Douglas, I am a fixed asset with diminishing returns. I work hard, but I'm not famous. I'm not shiny, and now that I needed a $28,000 surgery, I had become a liability, a bad debt. He didn't stomp on my knee because he hated me. Hate implies passion. Hate implies that I matter enough to trigger an emotion. This was worse. This was an administrative decision. He looked at the ledger, saw that the cost of fixing me exceeded my projected value, and decided to liquidate the asset. He physically crushed me to ensure I couldn't fight the decision, the same way a landlord changes the locks on a tenant who can't pay. I stared at the ceiling, the condensation from the ice pack dripping onto my skin. He thought he had balanced the books. He thought by crippling me, he had secured the funds for Gabriella's trip and removed a financial drain. But Douglas forgot the first rule of auditing. You always check the footnotes. He didn't realize that by trying to delete me, he had just authorized the most extensive audit of his life, and I was the only one with the password. The next morning, the sun hit my face like an insult. I hadn't slept. The throbbing in my knee had kept me in a state of delirious half-consciousness, counting the seconds between pulses of pain. Around 8 o'clock, Douglas knocked on the doorframe. It was a courtesy knock, the kind a boss gives before walking into a subordinate's office to deliver a performance review. He was dressed for work, charcoal suit, silk tie, smelling of expensive cologne and moral superiority. I trust you've calmed down, he said, adjusting his cufflinks. He didn't look at my leg. I know last night was unpleasant, but you need to understand the macro perspective here, Alana. This isn't personal. It's financial prudence. We have to tighten our belts to ensure the family's future stability. I made a hard call. That's what leaders do. He placed a bottle of over-the-counter ibuprofen on the dresser. Tough love is still love. You'll thank me when you learn to live within your means. He left for the office, confident that his logic was unassailable. I almost believed him. For a split second, the old programming kicked in the voice that said, maybe I was selfish for wanting expensive surgery. Maybe the family really was struggling. Then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Instagram. Gabriella. She had posted an hour ago. It was a get ready with me reel. She was holding a golden ticket envelope, doing a little dance in her designer pajamas. The caption read, Daddy just surprised me with the ultimate graduation gift. 2 weeks in the royal suite at the Atlantis Dubai plus first-class Emirates flights. Hashtag spoiled. Hashtag influencer life. I froze. I didn't just look at the picture. I looked at the tags. She had tagged the travel agency. Elite World Travel. I knew that agency. Douglas used them for corporate retreats. I pulled up their website. The Dubai Influencer VIP package was listed right on the homepage. The price was $45,000. The math clicked into place with the precision of a rifle bolt. Douglas had told me he canceled my insurance to save money. He told me my $28,000 surgery was an unnecessary drain, but he didn't save a dime. He had taken the exact amount allocated for my medical care and transferred it to Gabriella's vacation fund. He hadn't tightened his belt. He had just tightened a tourniquet around my leg to feed her lifestyle. I put the phone down. The tears I had been fighting all night suddenly stopped. It was strange. I expected to feel heartbreak. I expected to feel the crushing weight of rejection. Instead, I felt cold. Clinical. I finally understood what I was looking at. I realized then that Douglas doesn't hate me. Hate implies emotion. Hate implies a human connection. This is worse. This is accounting. To Douglas, I am a fixed asset with diminishing returns. I am reliable. I work hard. But I have a ceiling. I'm never going to be famous. I'm never going to marry a billionaire. I am a low-yield bond. Gabriella, on the other hand, is speculative capital. She is shiny, volatile, and holds the lottery ticket potential of fame or a wealthy marriage. He stomped on my knee last night not out of malice, but to stop the bleeding of his resources. He looked at the spreadsheet, saw that the cost of repairing me exceeded my projected future value to his ego, and he closed the position. It was a stop-loss order. He wasn't being a bad father. He was being a ruthless portfolio manager, and that was his fatal error. Because you don't mourn a portfolio manager who screws you over. You audit him. I wiped my face, reached for my laptop, and pulled it into bed with me. The pain in my knee was still there, screaming and white-hot, but for the first time in 27 years, the pain in my heart was gone. Douglas wanted to talk about finances? Fine. Let's look at the books. I didn't storm into his home office. I didn't kick down the door. I limped. I made sure the brace was visible, dragging my leg with a pathetic, scraping sound against the floorboards. I wore an oversized t-shirt and let my hair hang messy and unwashed. I needed to look like exactly what he thought I was. A broken, depreciating asset that had accepted its liquidation. Douglas was sitting at his mahogany desk, reviewing quarterly projections. He looked up, annoyed by the interruption. But when he saw my posture slumped shoulders, head down, his expression softened into smug satisfaction. He thought he had won. "I'm ready to sign," I whispered, my voice trembling just enough to sell it. "You were right. I can't afford the surgery. I don't want to be a burden. I'll sign the waiver releasing you from medical guardianship. I need to apply for state disability. Can you just show me the transaction history for the insurance cancellation? I need the rejection code for the application." It was the perfect bait. It appealed to his greed. If I went on state aid, I was off his books forever. He nodded, gesturing for me to come around the desk. He typed in his password, a complex string I'd never have guessed, and opened the portal. Just as he was about to point to the screen, his iPhone vibrated violently against the wood. The ringtone was specific. He had assigned it only to Gabriella. He picked it up, and even from where I stood, I could hear the hysterical shrieking on the other end. "Daddy! They cut the card. I'm at the Hermes store and the black card declined. It's embarrassing." Panic flashed in Douglas's eyes. His investment was in trouble. His logic centers shut down, overridden by his obsession with maintaining the golden child's facade. "Princess, calm down," he stammered, standing up and walking rapidly toward the hallway to get better reception. "It's a banking error. Daddy will fix it. Stay right there." He stepped out. He left the door ajar, and he left the laptop open. The moment he crossed the threshold, I stopped trembling. I didn't look at the insurance portal. I didn't care about the rejection code. I minimized the window and went straight to the browser history. I clicked autofill data. There it was. A recurring monthly transfer to a vendor listed as Medcore Solutions. I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady as stone. I ran a quick search on the Secretary of State's business registry. Medcore Solutions wasn't a medical supplier. It was a limited liability company registered 3 months ago. The registered agent? Gabriella. I felt a cold smile touch my lips. He wasn't just stealing, he was sloppy. But I needed the kill shot. I opened his corporate expense log, which was running in the background. I found the withdrawal from 2 days ago. $45,000 wired to Medcore Solutions for emergency medical procurement. I clicked on the transaction details to see the metadata. Every digital transaction has a fingerprint called a merchant category code, or MCC. If Medcore was a medical provider, the code would be 8062. It wasn't. The code staring back at me was 4722. I knew that code. I managed travel budgets for my construction firms. Code 4722 is for travel agencies and tour operators. The picture was complete. There was no medical fund. There was no financial pruning. Douglas was laundering company money through a shell company registered to his daughter to pay for a luxury vacation. And he was using my medical emergency as the cover story to bypass the internal auditors. He hadn't just been cruel to me. He had committed federal wire fraud. I didn't email the files to myself that leaves a digital footprint. I took high-resolution photos of the screen, capturing the bank ledger, the MCC code, and the business registry side by side. I switched to video and recorded the entire login path, panning up to show his family photo on the desk to prove it was his terminal. "Daddy will fix it, I promise." Douglas's voice echoed from the hall. He was coming back. I closed the tabs. I returned the browser to the insurance page. When Douglas walked back in, sweating and flustered, I was standing exactly where he left me, staring blankly at the floor, looking like a broken girl who had lost everything. He didn't know he was looking at the auditor who had just closed his file. "Here," he said, breathless, pointing at a random number on the screen. "That's the code. Write it down and go." "Thanks, Dad," I said. "I have everything I need." 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Douglas. "Be at the office at 2 p.m. Wear something nice but accessible. The board needs to see what we're dealing with." He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask if I could walk. He just issued a summons. I knew exactly what this was. He was feeling the heat from the internal audit team. The missing $45,000 was raising flags, and he needed a visual aid to justify the expense. He needed a prop. I put on a modest gray dress, the kind that made me look smaller, more fragile. I adjusted my brace, so it was clearly visible. I didn't wear makeup. I wanted to look tired. I wanted to look defeated. When I arrived at the firm, Douglas was waiting in the lobby. He looked stressed, sweat beading on his upper lip despite the air conditioning. He scanned me from head to toe and nodded, satisfied. "Perfect," he muttered. "Just don't say much. Let me do the talking. Look sad. Nod when I look at you. We need them to understand the severity of your condition so they approve the retroactive medical grant." He wheeled me into the boardroom. It was a cavernous space with a mahogany table that cost more than my college education. 12 men and women in expensive suits sat around it, looking at financial reports. At the head of the table sat the CEO, a man named Sterling, who had a reputation for ruthless efficiency. Douglas parked my wheelchair at the corner of the table, like a piece of luggage. He walked to the front of the room, buttoning his jacket, composing his face into a mask of tragic nobility. "Gentlemen, ladies," he began, his voice thick with rehearsed emotion. "Thank you for your patience. As you know, the quarterly audit flagged an unusual withdrawal from the Employee Emergency Fund. I wanted to bring my daughter, Alana, here today so you could see the reality behind the numbers." He gestured to me. The room turned. 12 pairs of eyes landed on my brace, my gray dress, my slumped posture. I saw pity in some of their faces. I saw impatience in others. "Alana suffers from a degenerative bone condition," Douglas lied, his voice cracking perfectly. "The costs for her treatment have been astronomical. The $45,000 paid to Medcore Solutions wasn't just an expense. It was a lifeline. It saved her leg." The CEO, Sterling, leaned forward. His expression softened. "I'm so sorry, Douglas. We had no idea." "Is the treatment effective?" Douglas nodded gravely. "It's a long road, but yes, we are hopeful." He turned to me, his eyes hard. A silent command. "Alana, why don't you show them the x-rays? Plug your phone in, honey. Show them why we need the money." He pointed to the HDMI cable on the table. He was handing me the gun. I stood up. I winced for effect, leaning heavily on the table. "Actually, sir," I said, my voice quiet but clear, "the treatment was incredible. It involved first-class flights and a suite at the Burj Al Arab." Douglas froze. His smile faltered. "Alana, you're confused. Sit down." I didn't sit. I picked up the HDMI cable. "No, Dad. I think they deserve to see the receipts." I plugged my phone in. The massive presentation screen flickered to life. Slide 1. The business license for Medcore Solutions. Registered agent, Gabriella. Date of incorporation, 3 months ago. Slide 2. The bank ledger. A single wire transfer of $45,000 from the corporate account to Medcore. Slide 3. The merchant category code breakdown. I pointed to the screen. As you can see, the payment to Medcore is flagged with MCC code 4722. Mr. Sterling, as a finance professional, you know that code. The room went dead silent. The head of compliance, a sharp-eyed woman at the end of the table, slowly closed her laptop. Code 4722, she said, her voice cutting through the silence like a scalpel. Travel agencies and tour operators. Douglas's face turned the color of old ash. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked from the screen to me, his eyes wide with a terror I had never seen before. She's on pain meds, he stammered, pointing a shaking finger at me. She's delusional. This is a glitch. A banking error. I leaned into the table microphone. My voice didn't tremble. There is no glitch, Douglas. You taught me never to hold on to bad assets. You told me I was a liability. You told me I was a depreciating asset you needed to liquidate. I looked him dead in the eye. You were right. You are a bad asset. A liability. And today, I am liquidating you from my life. The doors opened. The head of compliance had texted security 5 minutes ago. But it wasn't just security. 2 officers from the SEC's Economic Crimes Unit stepped in. I had sent them the full packet, the photos, the video, the MCC codes 4 hours ago. They didn't ask Douglas to leave. They told him to put his hands on the table. I unplugged my phone. I didn't watch them cuff him. I didn't watch him beg the CEO for mercy. I turned and walked out of the boardroom, the sound of Miranda rights being read fading behind me. In the hallway, Mr. Sterling intercepted me. He looked pale. He knew exactly what a public trial involving an executive stealing funds and assaulting his daughter would do to the company's stock price. Miss Alana, he said, breathless, we are horrified. The company accepts full responsibility for this oversight. We would like to offer you an immediate no-fault settlement to cover your medical expenses and pain and suffering in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement regarding our internal controls. He handed me a check. It was for $100,000. I took it. Thank you, I said. I'll be scheduling my surgery for tomorrow. I am sitting in the recovery room now. My leg is elevated. The pain is there, but it's different. It's a healing pain. It's the pain of fixing something broken, not the pain of being crushed. My phone buzzes. It's a notification from a drama channel on YouTube. The headline reads, Influencer Gabriella, detained by Dubai hotel security. The thumbnail shows my sister screaming at a hotel manager, claiming her father is a CFO who will sue them all, while 2 security guards drag her away. The corporate card had been canceled mid-transaction. She is stranded with $0 and a hotel bill she can't pay. I swipe the notification away. I block her number. I block Douglas's number. He broke my knee to save money. I broke his life to save myself. I think the ledger is finally balanced. If you enjoyed watching a greedy father get audited by karma, hit that subscribe button, and tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have visited him in prison? Yes or no?